Help me reach 6,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I still remember the sound of her voice that night. A scream sharp enough to cut through the walls. It wasn't just shock. It was betrayal, confusion, and fear all tangled into one. I didn't move. I just stood there by the doorway, my hands still on the handle, and the woman beside me frozen in place. For a second, time stopped. Then my wife, Emily, took a step back, her eyes wide, and whispered, "Who the hell is she?" 3 hours earlier, I had been driving home with the windows rolled down, replaying the last 6 months of my marriage in my head. Emily and I used to be inseparable. High school sweethearts. We'd built a life from scratch, small apartment, late-night pizza dinners, long drives with no destination. But somewhere along the line, we lost each other. Conversations turned into arguments. Touch turned into avoidance. And love, well, it turned into silence. She stopped coming to bed early. She'd sit up late, scrolling through her phone, claiming she couldn't sleep. I told myself it was stress, maybe work. But the laughter I'd hear from the hallway at midnight didn't sound like stress. It sounded like someone else. I never confronted her about it. Not directly. I watched. I waited. I studied the small changes. The way she'd lock her phone. The way she'd hum a song I didn't recognize. The way she'd dress up on evenings she claimed she was just grabbing coffee. I was raised to believe that trust was sacred, but I learned that blind trust was dangerous. So I stopped being blind. The woman I brought home that night, she wasn't who Emily thought she was. She wasn't some random fling or cruel revenge plot. But in that moment, I wanted Emily to think she was. I wanted her to feel the same panic, the same cold uncertainty that had kept me awake for months. "Answer me, Daniel," she shouted. "Who is she?" Her voice cracked at the end, trembling between anger and fear. I didn't answer. I let the silence drag. It was deliberate, the same silence she'd used against me for half a year. Then I turned to the woman beside me and said, calmly, "This is someone you should have met a long time ago." Emily's face shifted, confusion now replacing anger. "What are you talking about?" But before I could say anything else, her phone, left on the coffee table, buzzed. She glanced at it, and in that instant, I saw the flash of guilt in her eyes. She didn't move to pick it up, and that told me everything I needed to know. I walked past her into the living room, my footsteps slow, deliberate. The woman beside me stayed silent, her eyes scanning the space like she was stepping into sacred ground. I could feel Emily's gaze burning into my back. I'd imagined this confrontation so many times, how it would feel, what I'd say, how she'd react. But standing there, the moment didn't feel victorious. It just felt empty. Emily followed me. "You're not making any sense, Daniel. Who is this woman?" I turned to face her. "Her name is Claire," I said quietly. "She's the private investigator I hired 6 weeks ago." Her mouth fell open. The color drained from her face. For a second, she looked like she might faint. I didn't say anything else. I let the name settle in the air like smoke. Claire took out a small folder from her bag and placed it on the table. "Mrs. Collins," she said, her voice calm and professional. "I believe you already know what's inside." Emily didn't move. Her hands trembled. I could see her eyes darting toward the folder but refusing to open it. I almost pitied her, almost. I stepped back and folded my arms. 6 weeks, Emily. 6 weeks of pictures, messages, and receipts. I didn't want to believe it. God, I hoped she'd find nothing. But here we are. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Daniel, please," she whispered. Her voice broke something in me, because despite everything I still loved her, or maybe I loved who she used to be. The silence stretched again, heavier this time. She reached for the folder but stopped halfway. "Why did you bring her here?" she asked quietly. "Because I wanted you to see what lies look like when they're printed out," I said. "Because you never listened when I tried to talk. And because I wanted you to understand the kind of pain you've been handing me for months." She covered her face with her hands. The sobs came suddenly, violently, like she'd been holding them back for too long. I didn't move toward her. I didn't comfort her. I'd done enough of that. Claire stood by the door, expression unreadable, waiting for a signal to leave. But before she could, Emily looked up, tears streaking her cheeks, and said, "Daniel, I made a mistake. It wasn't what you think." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the sentence was so predictable it almost hurt. "Then tell me what it was, Emily," I said. "Tell me who he is." She hesitated. That hesitation was my answer. Her lips parted, but no sound came out, just trembling air. I watched her struggle for words, the way a liar does when every version of the truth still feels like a trap. She wiped her face, trying to regain composure, but her eyes betrayed her. They darted between me, the folder, and Claire, like a cornered animal searching for an exit. Finally, she whispered, "It wasn't serious. It was just attention. I was lonely. You weren't there." I almost smiled at that, not out of cruelty, but out of disbelief. "I wasn't there?" I said softly. "Emily, I've been here every night, watching us fall apart while you were busy texting someone else. You think loneliness gives you permission to betray?" She looked down, her shoulders shaking. "You stopped talking to me, Daniel. You stopped touching me. I thought you didn't love me anymore." Her words hit harder than I expected, because there was a time not too long ago when I did stop trying. I'd grown tired of reaching for someone who no longer reached back. But still, betrayal was a choice, and she made hers. Claire cleared her throat softly. "I'll leave you two alone," she said, stepping toward the door. I nodded. As she left, Emily's gaze followed her, and for a fleeting second, I saw fear. Not of exposure, but of realization. The silence that followed was suffocating. When the door clicked shut, Emily sank onto the couch. "Who else knows?" she asked quietly. "No one," I replied. "Not yet." She nodded slowly, relief flickering across her face, until I added, "But I'm not sure it matters anymore." Her eyes snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked toward the window, watching the rain start to fall outside. "It means I've been living with a stranger, and I don't think I can do that anymore." The sound of her crying filled the room again, softer this time, almost like regret. "Daniel, please, we can fix this. I'll end it. I already have." I turned to face her. "With who?" She hesitated again, then whispered, "Mark." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. I knew that name, not from her phone, not from suspicion, but from my own life. Mark worked with me, a friend, someone I'd trusted. "You mean my coworker?" I asked, disbelief thick in my voice. Her silence was the answer. For a few seconds, all I could hear was the rain against the glass and the thundering in my chest. "You brought him into our home," I said finally. "You let him sit at this table. You smiled at him in front of me." She started crying harder, muttering apologies that no longer meant anything. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I just stood there, numb, letting her words bounce off walls that no longer cared. When she finally looked up, eyes red and swollen, she asked the one question I didn't expect. "Why did you really bring her here, Daniel? You could have just told me you knew." I took a deep breath and walked toward her. "Because I wanted you to feel what I felt. The uncertainty, the confusion, the helplessness. When you saw that woman walk in, for just 1 second you thought you were being replaced. And that's exactly how you made me feel for months." Her expression changed from fear to guilt, then to understanding. And that was the first honest reaction I'd seen from her in a long time. I picked up the folder and handed it to her. "You can keep this," I said. "I don't need it anymore." She looked up, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done collecting proof of something that's already broken." She started to speak, but I held up my hand. "Don't," I said quietly. "There's nothing left to explain. You can't apologize your way out of betrayal." I walked to the coat rack, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. She stood up quickly. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere I should have gone a long time ago." "Daniel, please." Her voice cracked again, but I didn't turn around. I opened the door and then paused. "By the way," I said without looking back, "the woman you thought was my affair? She's Claire Harper, the same investigator your boyfriend's wife hired 6 weeks ago." The room went dead silent. I could almost feel the blood drain from her face. Slowly, I turned around to see her frozen in place, eyes wide, realization dawning like a slow explosion. "She's been working both sides," I continued. "And the man you cheated with? His wife knows everything." Her lips quivered. You told her?" "No," I said. "She found out the same way I did, through Claire." Emily sank back down on the couch, staring blankly at the floor. "Oh my God," she whispered. I looked at her one last time. The woman I once loved was sitting there, pale and broken, not because she'd been caught, but because she finally understood the weight of what she'd done. "I didn't come here tonight to ruin you, Emily," I said softly. "I came to end something that was already dead." And with that, I stepped out into the rain. The cold air hit me like a baptism, sharp, cleansing, final. Behind me, the house was silent. Not a scream, not a sob, not even movement, just silence. And in that silence, for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace.